This is where we hold them. This is where we fight.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.
Rob, what's good, homie?
Mike. Guess what day it is, Mike? It's the day after
about the PBA League draft day.
It's the day after the PBA draft, which means we are going to be talking a lot of snubs, politics, bowling politics, I should say. And probably some improvements because this draft was an absolute disaster. But it was, chaos that I think you have to watch in a weird way, right? And we'll get right into it. Not right into it, but we'll get into it a little bit later. Kind of first, before anything goes down, kind of see what's going on with you, man. How's things? Did you get a chance to bowl league this week? Do the lanes actually work?
Yeah, we weren't. We didn't have our full slate of 10 lanes that we usually have access to, but we had 8, and I think we had 17 or 18 people, so it wasn't that bad. I did bowl. It was on the long pattern that I went sub 500 on last time. Not proud to say that. The pattern is Eiffel Tower. It's hard as hell. I challenge anybody to go out and bowl on it. It's one of the most confusing long patterns I've bowled on in a really long time. I bowled terribly again. The first week I bowled on it, I started with a reality, right? Dull reality with surface on it, pin up.
Love reality.
Bowl did nothing. Okay. So as the night went on, I used about 5 different balls, and the only thing that looked pretty good was something that was shiny, like symmetrical, shiny, with real quick response time to dry, right? So the Venom Shock was actually like the best ball I threw. And it's funny because there's a guy who shows up to the league thing, and he video records it, right? He video records the league, and he put out a video, and I'm in it throwing a shot. He pans over and he gets me for a shot, and I put that out on Twitter. Somebody brought it to my attention. I put it out on Twitter, and I went for sub 500 that night. And in this shot, I threw the only really good shot I threw all night, and I was throwing the Venom Shock, and it looked pretty good. That was the last game. So this week I went in and I was like, all right, I'm going to start with the Venom Shock, and I'm going to see how that does. And I'll say it was better. It was definitely better than what I had the previous week, but yeah, it still wasn't real good. I went like 170, 180, 170, something like that. So like 550 or something, 530. Not very good. And the funny thing is that this week, it seemed like the people who were having success were throwing really strong dull balls, like the reality. So I was like, I don't know, like why am I never seeing it the right way? So yeah, if you're out there and you listen to this podcast and you bowl on sports stuff and you want to bowl on a tough pattern, put Eiffel Tower out, okay? Because I'm telling you, I mean, I can't even really describe to you what the reaction's like on the lane. It's to me, it looks like you have to get the ball to hook early and then fall back late. Does that make any sense? Like that's what when my ball struck, that's what it looked like it was doing. It looked like it was hooking real early and then just standing straight up going into the hole. And it was very strange, man. Very strange pattern, very challenging. Still haven't figured it out, and it's got me thinking maybe I need to drill a ball for this pattern. I haven't drilled the ball in a long time, so I might have to shell out some dough and drill a ball, unless there's people in the bowling community out there that are connected and want to help me out. I'm not that hard to get in touch with. sweeptherack@gmail.com.
I mean,
If you want to throw a couple balls my way,
can't help
Patch
you with
Pirate, all staff over here. So
can't help you in that area.
yeah, I know you can't help me. You can only help yourself. I know. Yeah, it's great. Thanks. But no, that's what I was thinking as I was driving home on Tuesday night. I was like, damn, I think I need to drill a couple balls. I think I need to drill a couple balls.
Yeah.
I just don't have something that will create any shape on this particular pattern for whatever reason. So yeah.
I mean, look, like I'm honest with the people, but when I drill stuff and what rolls good and what doesn't roll good, that virtual energy blackout rolls are really good. I love that ball. The more I throw it, the more I like it. And I'm still getting used to some of the other stuff I've drilled. I think complete like the Envy line's pretty good from Hammer too. So I'd imagine they're taking off probably. What your league's Tuesday night?
We're bowling over the holiday. We're bowling over the holiday now. Tuesday the 26th. I probably won't. I'll respond to that in a second. Tuesday, bring that back up in a minute. Tuesday the 26th, I don't think I'll be able to bowl because my family and I are headed into the city, so I don't think I'll be able to bowl that week over the holiday. But I believe that the league is bowling, and you know what? If I'm home in time, I mean we're doing lunch in the city, so I don't know. Maybe I will be home in time to bowl. I'm not sure. Nico also asking, are there any Christmas tournaments in my area? This might start a side conversation, Nico, but Rob, it used to be New Year's Day. I mean, for those of you that don't know,
10-game marathon.
If you're an OG, okay, if you're an OG, like the tournament around this area for years and years and years was the World Match Games New Year's Day Marathon. Okay, there was a Carolina every year.
You bowled a match every game.
10 games. Okay, New Year's Day, 10 games. Started at what? Started at noon and would wrap up at like 7, 8 o'clock at night, if I remember correctly. And
incredible.
It was like a who's who of amateur bowling, not only on the East Coast, but you'd get guys coming from a distance too. Like Pharaoh Williams has bowled that tournament. Chris Clerk, guy from Arizona out your way, Rob, has come out and won that tournament one year. Numerous well-known amateurs coming out to bowl that event. Rob, at one time, it's almost unbelievable now, but at one time that New Year's Day tournament used to get like 400 plus entries. There's 82 lanes at Carolier, and every lane would have 3 people on them. You'd have 6 on a pair. Okay. Yeah. John Flipchuck in the chat. What's up, John? The brackets at that tournament, there'd be sets. There'd be 200 to 300 brackets, but it would be like games 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6. Like every game would start a new set of brackets and also be another game for a set of. I mean, the action at that tournament.
It was a mega
off the charts. Honestly, I used to call it an amateur major. Like it was one of the amateur majors on the calendar.
Tony, I got to bring this up because yes, that was a very lefty-friendly tournament.
It was. Well, come on. I mean, 10 games. 10 games. One year, we both, me, Joe, and Bill and Will Jackson. Shout to Will. What's up, Will? We bowled on Patrick Allen's pair, and he won.
Yeah, I won. I bowled on the pair that Annie Lamonto won one year. Remember Annie Lamonto from St. John's?
Yeah, from St. John's. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was on a pair with him when he won.
Yeah, I mean the lefties had a distinct advantage in that tournament because when it got deep, right? When it got deep, the lefties were still crushing it, and the righties. I mean, it just got so hard
that they did.
Yeah, it just got so hard.
I used to love talking about and reminiscing about that tournament. The money that he made, Semez, as a tournament director, though. I mean, he was banking. I can't imagine how much money he made from everything, brackets, just taking. I couldn't. One day of work, he probably walked out of there with. I can't even guesstimate.
What do you think? Yeah, we can.
Figure how much you figure he was running.
$10,000?
400 brackets, and he was running almost like, 6 sets. right? I think
Right.
somewhere around there probably. And then he had a super brackets, not just regular brackets, but he ran super bracket, like 10 game brackets. Pots, side pots. Yeah. I mean, he was clearing like 5 figures. No doubt in my mind he walked
Yeah, and
out.
he had people working for him too,
He did,
and
but
he had
still, like,
help
he
running the
probably walked out
brackets
of
and
there at
stuff.
least like
But yeah,
total like 25 grand probably after he probably paid out a bunch.
yeah.
Like,
So that tournament for a long time was it. I mean,
it
if
was
you
that.
bowled and you were bowling anything around here over the holidays, it was New Year's Day. Now, sadly, that tournament is no longer.
Yeah.
Last year was the final year, and I will say that I had heard that over the last 5+ years that it had definitely changed, that tournament had changed and not for the better. And obviously the entries aren't really there anymore. But shout to Dougie. I don't know if you're here or not, Dougie, but shout to Dougie. I'm sure he'll catch us at some point. He's running a New Year's Day event at Lodi. He's running the World Series of Dougie Vision, multi-pattern event, numerous games. So yeah, it's something to replace that New Year's Day. Um, and yeah, shout to him. I wish I could come bowl. I always have plans on New Year's. For years I've gotten together with the same group of people on New Year's, and those
Yeah,
plans have gotten more complicated as the years have gone on. So I won't be able to make it. I haven't bowled New Year's Day probably since we were in college. Was probably the last time I bowled it. But yeah, I always loved that tournament. Always had a fond affinity for bowling on New Year's Day and bowling a tournament on New Year's Day. So yeah, I'm glad to see Dougie stepping up and running something. Steph's given some details on it. It's 4 patterns, 8 gamer, scratch and handicap division, 5 patterns because the finals will have a different pattern. So that's cool. Something for the handicap as well. On the tough stuff, I like it. Like I said, I wish I could bowl. If I was around, it's perfect too because now if I was home, I wouldn't be doing anything on New Year's. I'd be in bed by 9:30. The years that I bowled, I was probably out until 2, 3 in the morning, and then got up at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. to get to Bill's house, pick people up, and roll up to Carolier. But yeah, so I wish I could bowl, but yeah, it ain't gonna work out. So
Yeah, there's a tournament here, the 31st, not New Year's Day, but the 31st, which I kind of like better.
okay,
Because you have the next day off. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah, yep.
so there's a pattern tournament, the complete bowling event tournament that is it's their masters event or whatnot, and it's a limited entry field. So that'll be fine. I did go to the B3 Performance Center this past weekend. I ran into an old friend of mine. The great thing about a bowling world is that you never know who you're going to run into when you go into a bowling center, a random, Saturday afternoon. And I ran into Adam Ishman.
Oh
If anybody
yeah,
knows, yeah, and
Penn
he's,
State baby,
yeah,
PSU baby. What's good?
old timer New Jersey guy, is now a tour rep for Ebonite.
Is he a Jersey guy? I thought he was a
Yeah,
Pennsylvania guy.
no,
He
I
might
think
be
he's originally
Pennsylvania
from
guy.
Jersey. He's originally from Jersey. I'm pretty sure.
You sure?
Um,
I don't know
mhm.
about that. If he was from Jersey, we would have been recruiting him to come to St. Peter's. So I don't know
No,
about that. I think he
I'm
might be
pretty sure he's a
PA.
Jersey kid. I'll reach out. I'll ask him.
All right.
Anyway, so I saw him. We talked a little bit, and then while he was watching, I was practicing. He was kind of checking it out a little bit. I think I like pulled my bicep the last shot that I threw because I couldn't throw a second shot after that. It was hurting really bad. I didn't tear a bicep, and then I went to the gym yesterday. Took a couple days off. I tried to like do some pull ups on the pull up bar, and my right arm was felt dead. I don't think I hurt it that bad, but I'm kind of worried now. So I think I'm gonna have to take a week off. So yeah, don't get old, people. It sucks. So
I love the tournament idea on the 31st show.
yeah, it's a good idea.
Because
Especially
what you just made me think of is like,
yeah,
what about a nice kind of early tournament on the 31st?
that's
You
what
bowl all day,
and
you
you go
get
out.
done, you
Hmm.
go out, you get a nice dinner, nice
Yeah,
New Year's dinner, a few drinks, after a
and
nice
you're
day
in
of
bed.
bowling. That sounds like the move. Dougie, if you listen to this, keep that in mind for next year. That sounds like the
Yeah,
move.
especially everybody has the day off on the first.
Yeah.
Mostly everybody. I don't know what profession. If you're working in the service industry, you don't.
Well, that's
But anyway,
that's honestly one of the reasons I stopped bowling the New Year's Day tournament was because that next year after I graduated, I got a job right away. I started teaching that September, and that New Year's I had to go back to work on the second. Like
Yeah.
to bowl a 10-game event and be there all day and basically all night, and then drive home and then be ready for work the next day. Like, yeah, it just didn't work out. Three bet one, who I'd love to know who 3Bet1 is. It's definitely someone we know, but he says sweep the rack tourney in the future. I don't know about that. I don't know about that because of the distance between us, but I'll tell you what I am working on. I haven't even told Rob this yet, but I'm gonna tell you what I am working on. I'm working on a sweep the raction. Oh, that's actually a good name. Sweep the raction. Sweep the raction action night.
Nice.
Okay. On sport. All right. Where we're going to put out some sport patterns and we're just going to open it up. And whoever wants to come bowl, whoever wants to come out and bowl, whether you want to bowl for $1 a game, $100 a game, whatever, we'll try and get some action going. We'll have some matches and some different stuff. And if we don't get the action going, we'll just have a night and bowl and hang out on some sport patterns. But I definitely have at least 1 or 2 matches already set up and ready to go. So I definitely think we'll be able to get at least some action. And I believe it's gonna take place at Pike Lanes. I can give you a location on that too. I don't have a date yet, but Pike Lanes, sweep the raction sport action. Okay, so stay tuned on that.
Andrew wants me to fly in for the Jets game.
He does all the time. He did already this year. But listen, it's complicated, right? Like, he ain't gonna show up. He ain't gonna show up and
that's a lot of money.
Bowl a league. Oh, and he's out here all the time, for a night or two. He's got people to see. He's got dinners to do. Andrew, you got to see when this guy comes out. I mean, it's like eating at the best steakhouses in the city, going to the best bars and restaurants, pictures with dozens of people. Dude's like a celebrity when he comes out here. He doesn't have time to show up to a measly 18-person Tuesday night pot bowling thing.
Dude, I don't do shit all year, so I might as well spend my money when I go do something. You know what I mean? But yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Hopefully you'll get it. Are you getting an action match when you bowl?
Yeah, no doubt. One of the I'll definitely be bowling in one of the matches. I think we got at least one other match set up. So I'm not gonna give too many details yet, but I did my guy Bobby Kerwin, who listens to the pod and he's in the chat sometimes. He's one of the owners of Pike Lanes, and I reached out to him and said, "Yo, let's do this. Let's set this up. It's a
what if
nice little small bowling alley." And
what if I set your match up and didn't tell you who it was?
Yeah, that's fine. I take it. Listen, I'll bowl whoever. Does somebody think I'm scared of losing? Like, I ain't scared of losing a bowl.
I'm not talking about being a good bowler. I'm just talking about somebody that could be entertaining if you bowl against.
Oh, even better. Even better.
I know.
Even better. So yeah,
Anyway.
it's like I said, I'll have the details in a little while. Definitely going to be after the holidays. Probably looking February or so.
Might be worth it to fly out to sit at the table.
I would listen if you did come out. I would personally make sure you have a place to sit all to yourself. I would.
I appreciate that. Last time I came out, Mike didn't want to go do dinner, so I'll have to keep trying.
What? Oh, you know what it was? It was the birthday party. It was the birthday party. Yeah, no doubt. It prevented us from coming. And you know what? If you did come out, I'd treat you to a Bolero meal, which I'll bet you is probably more expensive than some of the steakhouses that you go to.
Yeah. Well, guess what?
No lie.
I already got reservations when I go to the Masters. Peter Luger's opened up in Caesars.
Yeah, no doubt.
I already got reses when I'm there at the Masters. I can't say who's coming with, but if you I already made some calls and said, "Yo, Peter Luger's we rolling or what?" I gotta celebrate my undefeated in the winners bracket. On Friday night.
I'm with it.
But if my arm don't heal up, I'm gonna be DNFing really quick here. So we'll see what happens. But Mike, we've talked enough bullshit. There was a big. Not say big, but people even knew about.
Can I start this by saying I thought we were kind of over this. I felt like it had jumped the shark somewhat.
Something to talk about, though.
I know, but is it? Am I right? I don't know if I'm right about this. I didn't say this to you previously at all. am I right that like the changes that they've made to the league have sort of rejuvenated my interest in the league, the fans' interest in the league?
To be honest with you, I don't really know how many people know about it other than the hardcore
I'm
fans.
saying the fans. I'm saying the hardcore fans. Like
Yeah, probably.
I watched the draft last night.
Oh, did you? I
I
didn't.
did. I was driving around and I made sure to bring up the Bowl TV app and tune in just so I could listen to it in my car. Because yeah, I feel like because they've made these changes and it seems like they're gonna give more attention to this product that they have. It has rejuvenated my interest in it a little bit.
Yeah, I think
Now,
what rejuvenated my interest is the fact that this draft is a shit show. That's what I'm
why?
serious.
Because it undoubtedly creates drama that we can stir up.
100%. And we're not stirring up any drama. They stir it up themselves.
Okay, fair enough. That's I think that's a fair statement.
There's a lot of things going on here that are under the surface that a lot of people probably don't know, and we don't know. And it's fun to just kind of speculate like shit that's going on behind the scenes here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. Well, everybody knows we love speculation.
And I've seen
but
some posts on social media today, and it even adds to the fuel to the fire on the speculation.
Understood. I just think that it's a much ado over nothing. Yeah, to me, because
No, it's not.
it is though. This is an individual sport still, Rob. Whether you get picked for a team or not doesn't mean shit in the long run. I mean, it's not that much. It's not that much. You're talking
time, money. There's a lot of
compared to the money these guys are spending to be out there competing on a regular full season schedule basis. It's really not that much.
But I think it feeds a lot of it humbles a lot of egos on top of it.
Well, I think it inspires people to prove the people wrong who.
Oh well, we'll talk about AJ Chapman.
Them up, right?
We'll talk about AJ Chapman.
But here's what I thought about driving around before we get into the breakdown of the actual draft. Man, I don't know. Is this going too far? I feel like the PBA should be headed in a direction where the league is their main product, where team bowling is the main product.
I mean, it doesn't have to be the main product, but it could be like the co-main product.
Nah, it's got to be the main. I think if you want to try and build something, build interest in bowling, and make some headway in terms of progress and interest in the sport and sponsorships, I really think that might be the way.
It could
After
be.
listening to the draft, how awesome! I want to curse again. How awesome was that draft last night? If you watched it, Belmo, Amleto, the Ballards, Parker, Mark Baker, Amlet, Couch. I mean, coming in and out. Tom Clark's there. Mike Flanagan did an amazing job. The guys from Bowl TV did an amazing job. I want it more. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I wish they would have been doing little mini interviews with the people in between and sort of getting some not background information, but updates on where they are and what they're doing, their involvement in it. Yeah, I thought, man, this is like other sports are. This is like other sports are, and because
get rid of the draft.
Because no one pays attention or so few pay attention to the individual side of bowling, I think it would be worth the risk to kind of make this a main product.
They have to get rid of the draft. It's the only way the team is going to work.
So how would it work then?
You want to go into it now? What I think they should do?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's hear it before we break it down.
Problem. The problem is it's hard as a fans, and if you are trying to root for one team, like the New Jersey Kingpins, if you're from New Jersey, like, and you don't have a lot of the same core group of players on your team every year, and they kept 2, and now they're redrafting 4 more, so you have essentially 4 different players, unless you're Tim Mack and you just do whatever the hell you can do to keep your team together. But yeah, I think as a fan, it's hard to keep rooting for different people. Now, I kind of relate it to like a professional sports team. Imagine if the Eagles, Mike, or if my Jets every year. I mean, maybe for the Jets it'd be good, but not for the Eagles. If they kept replacing players on these teams.
But they do. Now, I mean, I understand that it's there's more players. I think football is a bad example. Basketball is probably a better example, right? Like you don't see basketball teams who get rid of 3 of their starting 5 every single year and only keep 2 of their core players, right? Most of the teams in the NBA, they're trying to build a core 3, as a matter of fact. So, you see teams stick together with those rosters for a longer amount of time.
I'm just
And
saying is
and I
like
and I 100% feel you on that.
I don't want them to keep redrafting new players every year. So my suggestion would be, and I'll do this really quick, is that each team should keep 4 players out of the 6, right? After this
I think
draft.
that if you want to keep the whole team, you should be allowed to. I think it should be just like other professional sports,
Well, listen,
where
no one
every
can-
year,
yeah.
every year you have a choice of whether you want to keep this guy or get rid of him, right? Because that's
Maybe
pretty much how professional sports work. I mean, they sign guys to multi-year contracts, obviously, and some players you just know are going to be with teams
I
because of their
just want
quality.
I want better. I want like people who maybe aren't eligible this year that maybe end up. What if like someone who's not eligible this year ends up becoming player of the year? And I'm just saying that. And what if this person wins 3 titles, but they're not eligible? They can't get on a team next year because you're keeping every player from every team. So
No,
my
see,
suggestion,
but hold on. See, to me, that's where it would create more drama because there's not a lot of drama right now because every team has to get rid of 3 players. So, like, there's not really a lot of
they're not a
controversy in a
core.
team letting a player go, right? There's not a lot of controversy in letting a player go because you have to let the players go. But if you make it where they don't have to let the players go, okay, and they could keep all 6 players if they want, and a team lets a player go, I mean, that tells you, wow, that team didn't want that player anymore.
Yeah, or
Like
they
that
might have
team,
someone new. Yeah,
that's
that's a
it.
fair
So
point. But that's a fair point. That's actually like feeding into like what I want to see happen, right? Like
yes,
between teams. So my idea, and Stefan, we'll talk about the eligibility on who was eligible. We'll break down the picks. I have it all broken down for the people. I have literally a full day at work today. Hopefully, no one's from work is listening right now. So we keep 4 players, and then player managers should never be allowed, Mike. I'm against the Parker Bone and the Belmo being their own managers. Okay, regardless of how good a player is, like they shouldn't be able to bowl in their own team and manage their own team. It's just not the way sports are done. Like Tom Brady was the greatest ever, and he wasn't. Yes, he has input on what plays are getting called and what the lineup looks like, probably, but he's not essentially coaching. And I'm using that as literally Belmonte and Parker should not be player managers. I think they should get rid of that because eventually they're going to have to get rid of people. Maybe Belmo ends up over the hill. He's not going to get rid of himself. I'm just saying, right? So I think they should get rid of that. Yeah, each team would drop 2 players, but instead of having a draft, I think the players that would get dropped would end up in a free agency, like a free agency pool. And you would figure out how those 16 players would then go into the main base of players. Maybe then the next year you would have a 25 player eligible people, the top 25 in points after the players that are in the league. So the next 25 in points would be eligible. I don't care if they're already in the PBA League because I think that's an eligibility right now, and I think it's a stupid rule. I don't care if you were in the PBA League in the last 10 years. You shouldn't be eligible if you've been stinking it up on tour the last 3 years, honestly. It should go based on year, right? Previous year. 20, 25, 30 players, and then the waiver wire for the who would select would be based on maybe a loser's bracket of some sort, or maybe maybe a waiver wire where the last place team gets the number 1 waiver wire. But I'm kind of a fan of the losers bracket. We do that in our fantasy league. If you didn't make the playoffs and you're able to win or losers bracket to get the number 1 pick the next year, and it gives incentive for people to bowl if they're out. So I think they should do something in that cause. I think what's going on here is there's a lot of people that are eligible for the draft because they were in the league or drafted that are getting selected because they were on previous teams and they want to keep the team chemistry. But in reality, I think that there's a lot of more deserving players that should have been drafted. So I mean, I have numbers and data to back it up. And all those numbers and data go out the window when you look at some of these picks and what round they got picked and what, everything about it is kind of thrown out the window. Any common sense when it comes to statistics and numbers behind it go right out the window.
And it's interesting to me too because in most drafts, Rob, like you are picking a player before you know what they're going to perform like at the level that you are drafting them to play at.
Correct.
Right.
College. You have no idea. 100%.
Okay. So like any other sport, you're drafting somebody and you know what their potential is perhaps, but you don't actually know what their performance is going to be at that level. Now in this draft, they know what they have a long record, okay, of what the performance is going to be like over time of the players that are eligible for the draft. Now, obviously, there's some newer players, okay, that doesn't apply to, but for the majority of the players in the draft, you have a long record of what they're going to do, okay, and yet you still see picks that go so far outside what those statistics show, right? Especially like you can't go back 10 years, it's got to be like recent statistics, the last 2 years, the last 3 years max, I would think. But like there's picks that go so far outside that, even though they have a record of what these people's performance is going to be at the level that they're competing at. I don't get it. It's almost like letting NFL teams draft with a crystal ball of what's going to happen in the person's career, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll take this guy who's going to turn out to play 3 years and be a bust, even instead of this guy who's going to be a Hall of Famer and a franchise player." So
yeah, I get it. I want to let everybody know, in case people didn't know, what the eligibility of the draft is. I think there's a lot of questions on the eligibility, Mike. Players must have finished in top 50 on the 2023 PBA League roster, top 50 on the 2023 points list, or have been on a 2023 PBA League roster and won a PBA Tour title within the past 10 years. In the final round, the 4 players who did not meet the above criteria but were on 2 2023 PBA League rosters were eligible to be drafted. So essentially what they're saying is 4 of the players that were drafted weren't on the top 50 in points, but were on a PBA League roster in the prior 10 years were able to be drafted. Okay? I hate that rule. That the 2023 that you were on a team, you got selected, so you're eligible. I think that is a garbage rule because that opens up the door to draft so many players that essentially aren't deserving to be eligible because maybe they were picked 8 years ago. Like it's a stupid rule. I like the top 50. I like the PBA Tour titles, and I would even go as far as to say, even if you're a Hall of Famer or like you should be eligible. Like I just would throw that in there because I think that's kind of a cool rule. And I think they should even throw PWBA in there too, Mike. You should be able to draft PWBA ladies if they're a certain top 10 or 15 or even 25. I think they should get dropped in the pool too.
I like Kevin's suggestion in the chat where each team should have to draft one female player.
Oh, 100%. You want to even spice it up? Let them have to draft an amateur. I'm not saying that's going to, because it's a PBA tournament. You want to spice it up? Let the amateurs throw their names in the
or
the
college player. The PBA has already gotten involved with college bowling somewhat. Like, why not let them draft a college player, and bring a college player on the team? Not to say that they're going to get a ton of exposure or action in it.
It was so fair. What's up, Jeff? Man, it was a titleist within the last 10 years, or you were on a team last year,
right?
Yeah, but these teams that were on the teams last year were also sorry about that. I made a mistake. I read it wrong on the PBA website. If you were drafted last year, most likely you were drafted the year prior, and then the year prior. I think there's a lot of carryover. But yeah, no, that's my bad. I don't want to get jumped all over, but I read it straight from.
I thought that's what you said when you read it. No.
Yeah, but I interpreted. I thought it was player that's been selected in the PBA League the last 10 years. So
Okay.
I made a mistake.
Okay.
My bad. All right, Mike. Let's go through some of the picks. You want to go through it?
Let's do it.
Okay. So do you want me to bring up what I got? You think?
Yeah, sure.
All right, people. So get ready because I had a slow day at work today. So I did some digging in and some analysis. Okay. So in case anybody is not familiar with how Excel is, this is the player, the round that was selected, the team, who the manager was, and the PBA ranking. Okay. So essentially, if you look here, these are the points. This is straight from the PBA website for 2023 of the ranking of the player, the points, the money, the events, the average, the games, and what team they were selected. Okay. So this list here gives you a really good idea, highlighted in yellow, of the players that were not selected, okay, for whatever reason. And we'll talk through that. And then obviously the final roster here is of just everybody in the team. Okay. So if you want to start from the first round, the first thing, Mike, and we'll talk back and forth here, that stuck out here is the fact that BJ Moore was drafted number 4, Mike. He's 44th ranked in the PBA player rankings, and Carolyn Doran Ballard selected him in the number 4 pick. She selected him over Matt Ogle, who literally was 5th in points.
Like, well, I mean, why does Francois Lavoie get a pass if BJ Moore is a problem?
He shouldn't. I'm saying
Lavoie is 37. I mean, it's only
100%.
7 spots higher. Now, if you turn around and tell me, well, dummy, he's won the U.S. Open twice. Okay, all right, I'll give you that. But again, I think if you're drafting here, you got to be thinking recent performance. You got to be thinking last 2-3 years, right? And 37th on the point list for last year, is not very good. Yeah, shocking that Matt Ogle didn't go higher. Right, especially in front of, I would say, all 3 of those guys, Sam Cooley, Francois, and BJ Moore. I think Dom did deserve to be the first pick in the draft. I'm not going to argue that, just because not only is he one of the best players over the last 10 years, but he's still near the top of his game.
So I'm going to get a lot of heat for this take, Mike. I'm going to get so much heat for this take. I don't think Wes Malott should have been drafted at all. I don't think he should have been drafted. I'll die on that hill, okay? Last year, I get it. They won, whatever, bring him back. But it gets to the point where, Mike, like, he's not bowling great on tour. He's 73rd in points, and he doesn't deserve to be there from his last year or 2-year performance on tour. And so, okay, maybe if he was Mr. Irrelevant and he was the last pick, I could maybe understand that, But come on, you pick him, Tim. You pick him in the first round. Like, what?
Well,
what is
all right.
this
Can I make the argument?
Sure.
Can I make the argument on the other side? Right.
Okay.
So, in sports, right, you often have franchises who have a franchise player, right, who has been with that organization for a long time, and hold on, and at one point performed at a really high level for that organization, right? And you see this a lot where they just hang on to the player too long, right? They just hang on to the player a little too long. They look at the player as what they were, not what they are, right? And there's a lot of nostalgia there, and there's a lot of connections there. And to me, when I heard that pick, that's exactly what I thought about that pick. Is like, no, this is that sports idea in this PBA League setting, right? Where it's Wes Malott. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the top players over the last 15 years plus, right?
Incredible. The guy's amazing. I love the guy.
But you're also right. You're also right. Recent performance says probably shouldn't be in that position, right?
And and Nico keeps saying, well, he was injured. Don't hold that against him. Nico, in the world of sports, injuries are a bitch. But guess what? If your player is injured and he's not performing up to his standard because he's injured, the teams will release the players because they can't get healthy. And I'm just saying that in the real world of sports, right? So yeah, I get it. He's injured, but Hirsch Bowling, did Charlie have any influence with Wes?
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe.
Definitely. No,
what is,
no question about it.
So so just even the first round, like even think about it, like wow, like really, like from my opinion, in my if I had the number one pick and I was Belmo, I would have picked Ogle. For his performance at the league, he's pretty good in the anchor spot. He's been really good. And what kind of year he had this past year, I think he was, to me, the number one pick this year. That's just my opinion. But the data and the stats and everything that goes into it.
Did he bowl good at the league? Didn't he miss
he missed
easy
the
spare or whatever?
He did, but how many? I think they all missed this fucking spare at this point.
No, I don't know. I mean, you want to say Matt Ogle, I'm not going to argue with you, but I think
Dom was a good pick too.
A fine pick there.
He's a good pick, but I would have had Ogle Dom going number 1 and 2, right? So that was my first round. Anything else in the first round you want to talk about? Because between BJ Moore, Frankie Lavaw, and Wes Malott, I mean, really? Like, I could see Dom Barrett and Cooley go in the first round. Yeah, that makes sense, right? And then this is where it got like weird. Wes Malott, BJ Moore, Maldonado, like these, it's just weird. It's a weird cluster here. So,
well, obviously, who we have to talk about is Jacob Buttriff, right?
Dude, he didn't even get drafted until the 3rd round, and I highlighted him because that. Okay, why? Why do you think he fell to the 3rd?
Oh, is this a hard answer?
I'm asking, honest to truth. We're honest here.
It's the unanswered questions about your thing.
Or is it the injury?
No, it's the unanswered questions about your thing. Is there any player who's more, known for urethane or has bowled in bigger spots with urethane than him? I don't think there is.
Okay. I think there's an injury question more than there is the urethane question.
Okay.
To me. I think everybody on tour knows how good Butters is. And I'm not saying that because, he's a friend of mine whenever I see him a lot, but I think everyone knows how good he is. The kid could be throwing him in hand rubber and strike, honestly. And you always talk about that, right? But we always talk about that about Butters, right? How he could probably strike with any urethane he throws. But with the players are the ones, or the managers, the ones making these picks, right? Now, Belmo bowled with Butters. They bowled with each other, right? In the previous team. Why wasn't Belmo picking Butters there in that spot? He bowled with him last year, right?
I mean, the guy's 4th on the points list. He wins almost every year. He's in majors almost every year.
Mike, look at this season he had. He bowled 19 events. He made 175 grand and averaged 223 over 400 games, Mike. And you're telling me this guy's at a 3rd round? It's wild, right? It's just there's a lot of story behind a lot of these picks. So yeah, and looking at some of these. Okay, so let's talk about where do you want to go from here, Mike? You want to go talk about
Arturo? You want to talk Arturo?
Arturo's another one that shouldn't be picked. Okay. If Timmy was on this show right now, and I'm a friend of Timmy, known him since I was 16, love the guy, great ambassador for sport. Can't say enough great things about him. But what he did in this draft, he needs to have his manager card revoked, Mike. Okay.
See, but that's why I go back to saying that if they want to keep the whole team, they should be able to keep the whole team.
Right.
I mean, that's it to me. Like, 100%. If Timmy Mack and the Portland Lumberjacks want to bowl with the same 5 every year from now until the next 10 years, go ahead, let them. Why not let them? I mean, is that the right decision? No. But if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. It just seems pointless to me to have a team like the Lumberjacks and Tim Mack releasing guys that they know they're going to redraft. I mean,
I agree.
they picked the
100%.
guy that's 70th on the points list in the first round. Come on.
Yeah.
Like
He knew what he was
if you
doing.
want the guy that bad, then let them keep him.
Yeah, and someone brings up a really good point, 3bet one about Arturo being sponsored by Portland. There is definitely some politics there. Arturo should have never been drafted. Okay, so Mike, so you're telling me, and this is probably, maybe get some heat for it. You're telling me that Thomas Larson, who bowled 6 events last year, 6 events, Arturo Quintero, who bowled was 66 on the points, you're gonna draft them over Anthony Lavery, Spar, AJ Chapman. Hold on, let me pull it up here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Santu is hurt. I don't know his extent of his injury,
Right.
but obviously it's pretty bad if no one drafted him because there's a ton of people that would have. Something's bad there. Sean Lavery, Spar, AJ Chapman. Even a Matt Sanders. You could make a case for that should have been drafted based on his 2023 year. But you can't argue what Sean Lavery Spar did, Mike. There was a post that Mikael Holloman posted on his Facebook about how Sean Lavery Spar should have been drafted, right? EJ Tackett then responded and said something very interesting, Mike. And I want to read his EJ Tackett's post because I think there's something under the surface here that people are missing, right? EJ Tackett wrote, Jeff Butler. Look, fair point, but it ain't. I'm gonna die on this hill that Arturo should have never been drafted. I don't care if he's married to the wife. I don't care if he's married to the owner of fucking Portland. He should have never been drafted. I'm
Jeff,
just
what
saying.
up, boss?
It's kind of bullshit that like players like Sean Lavery Spar, who earned the right on a team from his 2023 season, gets snubbed because Arturo Quintero is in bed with Portland and the owner. Honestly, like this is just me being honest, right? And being. So EJ Tackett wrote, the greatest quarterback of all time barely got drafted and was a backup until the real quarterback got hurt. I agree in making everyone not have a choice but to pick you, and that's completely up to the individual to prove that. But in a team environment, you have to consider how good someone is in an environment and how well they may gel with the team. There are many more things to consider than just stats when it comes to this, and anyone that follows any team sport should know and also consider this. Also, no matter what, someone will always be snubbed of a spot, and that's just the way it is. Happens every year in golf for the Ryder President Cup teams. Justin Thomas got picked for this year and barely was in the top 125 on tour this year, but he thrives in that environment, and that also has to be considered when making decisions. So wait,
I don't agree. I don't agree with a lot of that.
Let me ask you on that point: is EJ saying that Sean Lavery Spar, the reason he didn't get drafted is because he didn't gel with any teams, or he's not good for the team environment, and he didn't bowl well in Portland? Because from the TV shows I remember, Sean Lavery Spar did pretty good on the shows.
I remember him struggling somewhat. I feel like this last.
I think he left a couple really bad wrap tens. But I think he actually bowled pretty decent. He bowled a lot better than a lot of people did, I think, on the show. But what is he saying? What is he like?
I agree. I think you're interpreting it correctly, but I just question how much like the chemistry really matters. I think they just throw that around as an excuse to pick who they want to pick. Let's be clear. EJ's brother got picked. Okay, so he's one of the guys who got picked over.
Rash is saying Sean bowled good on TV. Okay. I agree. I remember hearing. So you're telling me the reason why Sean Lavery Spar didn't get picked was because he didn't gel with his team, or he's not a team player? Is that what EJ Tackett's trying to say?
I guess I just don't believe that it has that much to do with it. I think if you're bowling good, people are going to gel. If you ain't bowling good, people probably ain't going to gel. There's certain guys who don't like each other. I'm sure there's guys who have better relationships with others. But but they're not going to end up on the same team because the managers are going to know that. So you would imagine if two guys are getting drafted to the same team, that they probably have at least an amicable relationship at a minimum. I would think, right? I just think the chemistry thing is overrated in my eyes, especially for this event. I think it's more important in a full team event, but not in an event where you're only bowling partial as a team. I like Jeff's comment here, where he said, what would this draft be like if there was 5 million on top for first? I believe it would be a lot different.
So explain
Casey
that.
wants us to elaborate on Chapman, on AJ Chapman. AJ Chapman put up a social media post as well.
Yeah, so AJ Chapman posted this was 6 hours ago. He wrote, "I won't lie, the feeling that I have inside right now stings. After being in the league 4 consecutive years, I wasn't drafted to a team. The managers didn't believe that I was good enough being 28th in points for a 48-person league. I've dedicated thousands and thousands of hours to the sport. I've been challenged many times and I've always bounced back stronger. 2024 will be the next example of that. I decide my future."
Thoughts on his snub?
No, I think AJ just bowled really bad on TV. I don't remember him bowling out at all good on TV. So that would to me be the difference between AJ Chapman and Shoal Avery Spar. Shoal Avery Spar bowled pretty good on TV. AJ Chapman didn't really bowl good on TV. I remember him leaving a lot of washouts. There was a lot of big opens in pretty bad times. So I think that would be my only understanding that maybe they didn't draft him because maybe they didn't see him as performing well under pressure when they needed him to. And that sticks into a lot of the players and managers' minds. If they're not bowling well on the TV and they're kind of on the bubble. But I think if I was AJ Chapman, if I was Shoal Avery Spar, if I was, even Jacob Buttriff, I would take really what happened in the draft and use it as fire for me to stick it up everyone's ass. Kind of like Simonelli did. I think Simonelli was a good example of that. I think he had a chip on his shoulder and he showed everybody why he should be on a team. And he was a keeper this year, even though he was, if you look at the points, Simonelli was pretty far down from what I remember looking at him being in the points, and he was a keeper. So I think it definitely has a lot to do with how you perform on the shows. Simonelli was 69th in points, Mike, and he was kept. Dude, I love it. I'm so excited.
We got a legend in the chat, folks.
Dead fish, Mop.
We got a legend we got multiple legends in the chat tonight, actually. Shout to Sean too. Yo. Rudy Revs is in the chat, folks.
Dude,
check it.
I love it, man. Rudy, my guy.
Dude. Oh, Mr. Revs, if you ever have the time, we'd love to have you on. We'd love to have you on, Mr. Revs. Dude, went to watch you at Bryant Park, Mr. Revs. One of my best bowling watching experiences. He probably wasn't here for the beginning of the show. Come on and talk New Year's Day marathon with us, Hoss.
Dude, I crossed with him 1 year.
Let's talk. With him. I spent 1 year watching him more than I did bowling. I put more concentration into watching him bowl than I did into actually throwing the shots myself.
I love it, man. You got a legend in
Shout to the legend, man. Shout to the legend. Somebody must have told him. His ears must have been ringing. He knows we've been talking about him over here. So
click on order your spare ball at New York's events. Crack people, the Revs.
Love it. Love it.
Dude, the stories are endless. We need at least a 3-hour interview with Rudy, I think, but we'd try to get him out in an hour.
Oh, my goodness.
What's happen. It'll be like an hour and a half. Rudy, we're going to need about an hour and a half, bud.
Yo, that's bowling bucket list for me, bro. That's bowling bucket list for me. I'm not even going to lie. But all right, back to the draft, right? Here was my favorite part of the draft. If you watched it, you probably saw this, right? Here was my favorite part of the draft. Norm Duke comes up. Okay, Norm Duke comes up for the Dallas Strikers. Can you bring up the draft order for me so I could see who he picked where? Because I want to recall this story correctly, right? So his first pick was Maldonado. Okay, So he comes up for his second pick, okay? And he comes on, and Rash is still available, okay? And Buttriff is still available, and they're kind of talking about this before he comes on. And Tom Clark sort of mentions it as Duke comes on, and Duke goes like this. He goes, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically goes, "Yeah, Sean Rash. Oh yeah, Jacob Buttriff. Yeah, yeah. We select Jake Peters." And I said, "What? What? Come on. What? I mean, listen, I hate to come on here and have to flame Norm Duke, but honestly, that might have been one of the more perplexing picks of the draft to me, quite frankly. Especially with some of the players that were involved that were still alive there, still available there. I mean, so that to me was the highlight of the entire draft. I'm like, how can you go Rash, Buttriff, we select Jake Peters? I mean, come on. Oh, dude, man.
Frankie, congrats on getting picked in the first round. But we were talking about how you probably should have dropped a little bit.
Little high, Hoss. We thought a little high.
We love you though, man. You're the man, dude. What a great interview we had.
No, but listen, Mark Baker did say that he believes that that Frankie is going to have the best improvement going into this season. He didn't give a lot of background on why, but I mean, we're talking about Mark Baker. We're talking about somebody that really knows his stuff in terms of players and the work they're putting in, and physical keys to their game and things like this. So I'll take his word on that.
I want to talk about these picks, the Jake Peters pick, and we know why Timmy select the far right pick. But I mean, you have Buttriff, Rash, Dick Allen, who's like the king of Portland, right? I think he went lower than he should have, even though he was 38 by his previous experience and history with Portland, right? And he's still bowling good when he's on TV. So there's a couple of question marks, but Jake Peters had a good year, right? He was in the 20th in points. So I don't mind him going there. But yeah, like I feel like how Buttriff, and I'll kind of reiterate how Buttriff dropped that much is a little bit weird, to me. The Zach Tackett pick, though, at 27 in the fourth round.
Perplexing.
Dude, like, what is, like, I don't get it. Like, I just don't understand that. Like, you look at the people below Zach, like Nick Pate, like, and a lot of the people who weren't selected, as we keep saying, like Sean Avery Spar, like, even like an AJ Chapman and I mean, you could go down the list of the points here of people that weren't selected. Matt Sanders, Martell, Nathan Bohr, even, right? Like, to me, those are better picks than Zach Tackett at that spot, right? I mean, if I'm going to put Zach Tackett somewhere, it's probably going to be like, honestly, like somewhere like down here. I mean, even the rookie of the year, Cortez, wasn't, even considered. And he had for a rookie, he had a great year the last like 4 tournaments. So he's up and coming. So I would have rather picked Ronnie Russell in that spot, honestly. Like, even though he didn't have a great year this past year. But still, like, I mean, the Zach Tackett pick we all know why he was picked, obviously, but I mean,
why say it, Rob? So, you got to put it out there.
He's EJ's brother. I mean, it is a spade, right? If it talks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a fucking duck. And that's what it is, right? It's his brother. There's the politics of it, right? The Arturo Quintero is politics. The Zach Tackett is politics. It's just the way it's supposed to be. It's a very chaotic draft, and I don't mind it, to be honest with you. Like, yeah, we're talking through it, but this is shit that, gets us stuff to talk about what's going on with some of these players. Is there, do people don't like these players? Are they, I don't know, they're not team players? There's so much like stuff that we probably don't know about, but as fans, we're just kind of talking through it,
True.
Anyway, anything else, Mike? I know there was so much going on. You got a chance to watch the draft live. Tom Hess got picked. I don't mind the Tom Hess pick. And I saw someone in the chat saying Hess's politics. Hess had this is 46. This is on the national tour. We're not even talking about the PBA 50 on what Hess did, right? I think that also has got to be taken in consideration. No, when you see a guy like Tom Hess sitting there in the last pick, having a decent year, bowling against the young guys, and then completely killing it on the PBA 50, right? I mean, that's got to be taken in consideration, right?
I mean, I don't know. I think to me it comes down to strategy a little bit. Like, do you want to take a Tom Hess who's bowling a lot, bowling everything, bowling PBA 50, bowling the regular tour, having some flashes here and there, or do you want to take a flyer perhaps on a younger guy, who might not be as proven, but on the back end you may get more out of. Like I liked the Frank Snodgrass pick. I flamed Duke earlier for the Jake Peters pick, but I actually like the Frank Snodgrass pick because to me that's the kind of player I'm talking about, like a guy who hasn't really broken through yet, but has bowled well enough to argue that he could break through, right? And do you want to take a flyer on a guy like that who may really pay dividends if it goes the right way, or do you want to get the guaranteed thing in a Tom Hess where the ceiling might not be as high, but the floor is a lot higher as well?
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of fantasy football when you're drafting like a second year or third year, like top, like, first or second round, like wide receiver or running back, right? Where they're like, maybe the first year they did okay, but they usually start breaking into the NFL, the second, third year, right? You could see a lot of the NFL wide receivers. I feel like that's kind of the same thing in what you're saying, right? Is you're picking someone who you feel like is on the brink of like having a great year. I think Santu is something like that in that nature, right?
Well,
Santu had a really good year last year.
who did Norm take last year?
He
He
took
took
Santu.
Santu.
He
And who
did.
does he take this year? He takes Frank Snodgrass, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I like that pick. I
But
do.
Cortez,
Now, like I would say that Tom Hess is sort of like your older receiver or running back who what you're going to get out of them. You're going to get their standard performance. They've proven that to you many times, but the ceiling might not be that high.
yeah. So there's a couple of like, I see. That's the thing is I don't think Cortez was eligible, right? Because he wasn't drafted last year. He hasn't won a title, and he wasn't top 15 points, right? So someone put that in the comments. Steph did. I don't think I think PBA Rookie of the Year should be draft eligible. I agree. I think Cortez should have been eligible for being Rookie of the Year. I mean, there has to have some kind of perks, right, to being Rookie of the Year. And why wouldn't the PBA want to showcase the Rookie of the Year in the PBA draft, PBA League? And I feel like there's some chatter in that too.
Kevin wants to know if we're talking Dr. Barnes. Why? Why do we got to talk Dr. Barnes? I don't think that
Barnes was picked when he should have been picked.
Yeah, I don't think that him being picked was that shocking. I wasn't really surprised by that.
Dude, Barnes was picked literally in like the 13th pick. I'm fine with that. Dude, how could you not love Chris Barnes like on your team in a second round pick? The guy's been there, done that.
48th in points. 48th in points. All right. I feel you on that, Kevin. I can understand why you might say that, but again, I think when you're talking about the Barnes, the Tommy Joneses, the Bill O'Neills, the Wes Malotts, the Sean Rashes, right? When you're talking about these guys, those players are going to be given way more leeway because of the high proven floor that they have and the high ceiling that they have, as opposed to some of the more unproven players that you could possibly draft.
So here's what the PBA should do. You ready for this idea? They should on the fly open up a new team, and they should put the next 6 point people that weren't selected on one team, and call them like the whatever, I don't know, the San Francisco like snubs, right? And you put Sean Avery, Spar, Chapman, Sanders, Martel Bohr, and Bowlby on a team and watch them roll over everybody, essentially. That's just a cool, a crazy idea, but that would be hilarious, right? Like how much chip on shoulders on one team. Yeah, the
This
unwanted.
guy gets the show. The name of the team would be
Yeah.
the Unwanted.
Yeah, well, let's get some names here. The Reno Rejects. The
The
Oklahoma
Oklahoma
Outcast.
Outcast.
Dude, I
Oh,
think
that's
that
so
would be
good.
an amazing idea in the PBA. You see, I should work for the PBA, Mike. The shit that I would throw out there and we would do, man, would be amazing. But all right, Mike, anything else before we get to worst of the week? I think we broke down the draft pretty well here. If anybody
Yeah, we need to talk about just real quickly. We
okay.
need, and I know there's not a lot of drama here. See, that's what I'm saying about the league and like being a more featured product. Like, you see how much drama this creates.
Oh,
The Sacramento Scrubs. That's a great name. Oh,
dude.
that's a great
The
name.
NWO, maybe they come out in the middle of the show and they like spray paint like the whole set. Mike, that's a wrestling reference you wouldn't know.
The Brooklyn Bench Warmers. That's another good one. Oh,
dude,
my
the
goodness.
Bad News, like, reminds me of the Bad News Bears. Who would their head coach be? Who's the biggest? Who would be the snub of the snubs? Like
Ernie Schlegel. Ernie Schlegel. Oh my god,
man, that would be the best, dude. Anybody ideas? Who
the
would be
Boston Bums? Oh
Ryan
my goodness,
Schaefer?
Ryan Schaefer would be a good one.
Good
That's
one.
a good suggestion, Jeff. That's
Anybody?
great.
Who else? Anybody out there in the bowling world, if you had to pick another manager to be the team manager of the San Francisco Snubs,
The Duluth Donkeys.
Oh my goodness, dude, that's hilarious. Who would it be?
Oh my
Arnie
God.
Goldman. Arnie Goldman. That's too good.
This has gone off the rails, son.
I love it. It's the best when we go off the rails. Oh man, people saying Rudy Revs. Nah, man, Rudy ain't coaching that team, man. Dude, Mike Devaney. I love Devaney. I don't know about that. Pittsburgh Pariahs. The chat. Roy Munson. George Go Higgins says Roy Munson. Dude, get Woody Harrelson dressed up as Roy Munson with the rubber hand. Dude, put him as the team manager. Oh my god. Or Big Earn McCracken. Oh, Mike. All right, Mike. What else? I know you had one last thing you said you want to talk about.
Yeah, so real quick, not a lot of drama here, but end of the season awards.
Oh,
right. We were going to talk about them last week, but the player of the year hadn't been announced, and I know there was no drama in who the player of the year was going to be. But
dude, I can't wait to get Rudy on. I'm sorry, man. I can't wait to talk Rudy. I'm gonna.
Hoss, you got to come on. If you enjoy this, what we're doing tonight, you got to come on because this is nothing, bro. This is nothing, bro. Oh my God, give us a crack at that. We'll have the whole bowling world on tilt, son. I'm not even playing around. So the end of the season awards, right? No drama in player of the year, obviously. EJ Tackett, yeah. Shout to him. 100%. I mean, historical season. It's just. Man, as a fan, and if you're Anthony Simonson, I guess it just sucks that like Simonson had such a remarkable year, and to not win Player of the Year. I mean, when his career is all said and done, like I think you're still going to look back on this year of like what could have been. And I mean, I think as fans, I think we didn't appreciate enough this season. You know what I'm going to say, the battle between those two. And I think going forward, like I'm going to try and appreciate that more. I'm going to try and appreciate that rivalry between Tackett and Simonson more. Like there's so much of a focus on Belmo and his rivalry with everyone else, which I understand. I get that. But these other rivalries of some of the younger guys against the younger guys, I feel like that's what we should be paying attention to even more.
So let me talk about Anthony Simonson, and this could be a hot take, you call it. I don't think there's been a talent like him at his age since maybe a Norm Duke or a P. Weber at their age.
Absolutely.
And I think even Anthony Simo, and I've done the comparison of where his stats are when compared to like Pete Weber when he was that age, and Simo like it blows the stats out of the water of what Pete was with that age. But Pete, I know at his young age was obviously Pete. Norm was also like amazing when he was young. I think he made a show at like 17. I think Pete Weber's first age of when he made a show. Simo's talent and what he can do with a bowling ball and what his had of a year last year in his career as a 23 or 24-year-old is unbelievable. And 10 years or 15 years from now, if Simo stays healthy and keeps his head and gets his head on or keeps his head on straight, I think we're going to be talking about him as the greatest of all time.
I mean, I've said that already.
Grant, what did Frankie say? Underrated rivalry, one-handers versus the front part of the Dude, that's the most underrated comment I've ever witnessed on this show.
That's the
team, my man.
That's the rivalry behind the scenes, right? That's the rivalry that people don't see.
Rivalry. That is a great comment.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the guy, Steph said in the chat, Simo won a title bowling with a backup ball. I mean, I don't think that has ever been done or will ever maybe be done ever again.
He shot 850 something in the final match at the Masters this year.
I know.
He does legendary shit.
I know, and it's crazy. It just shows you how good of a year EJ had. That's what that shows you.
No, it's wild, man. Shout to EJ, really.
I'm excited though for next year.
But we all knew this. We saw this coming with EJ. The key for him was being able to unlock winning. Right. And we all, anybody who watches knew if he figures out how to close it out, forget it. I mean, it's lights out.
And that's what happened.
Right. That's what happened this last season. And if you go back to, one of the first events where he won, we came on and we said it. I remember us saying watch out. I mean, because if he's going to bowl like that and he's going to finish matches like that, it's going to be scary what's going to happen. And you saw. Also, just quick review. Shout to Johnny Petraglia for winning the Tony Reyes Community Service Award. Am I right on that? Is that the name of that award? For his work with BVL, Bowlers to Veterans Link. Great organization. Been around for a long time, has done a lot for veterans, obviously.
Yeah, it was the 2023 Tony Reyes Community Service Award.
Yeah, obviously, Mr. Petraglia himself, a veteran of the Vietnam War. I know that. So, definitely want to recognize him. I mean, he's been working with that organization and heading up that organization for quite a long time. So definitely nice to see him recognized. And then you had Cortez Schenk as the rookie of the year we mentioned earlier, right? Shout to him. Shout to the young bull. Don't want that to be overshadowed. I feel like I feel like the young guys definitely have a tendency to get overshadowed because we're following the big dogs. But definitely want to recognize him for that award.
Cortez bowls in my area. I've crossed with him on numerous times in tournaments. Cortez is so good. It's just right now you haven't seen it come out on tour. He's one of those type of guys that once he starts getting some winning under his belt and some cuts and some confidence, Cortez has the ability to, in a couple years, once he starts learning more and really absorbing it, to be one of those top 5 or 10 players on tour. No doubt in my mind. And I'm hopefully years later when we're doing this show, I could pull out this episode and talk about how good he is and how good he's, what was going to be. So, and great kid too. Real nice kid. Straps on him, man. He outhooks me by 2 arrows. It's crazy. And I hate him for it. All right, Mike, do you want to get into worst of the week here?
Let's do it. All right, go ahead. You can go first, Rob.
Mike, I finally have proof. Of everything that I've been saying about the bowling ball epidemic that the bowling industry is in right now. If anybody is a first-time listener or is listening, I will go on the record talking about how we are in a bowling ball epidemic. Bowlers are, and I'm talking house, average league bowlers are so in tune. They're so involved with what balls they're drilling and not getting better as a bowler. They completely skip the mental game. They completely skip the physical game. All they want to do is drill bowling balls. There's this, they want to drill up the magic pill that's going to increase their average 25 pins. It's an epidemic, and it's not their fault. It's the bowling industry's fault. It's the bowling ball company's fault. It's the proprietor's fault for putting out easy shots in their house, right? So that all they could do is drill the newest and greatest ball, the most longest and strongest ball, and they're gonna, be, great bowler. And it's a bad epidemic. I saw a post that came on last week. This is not a worst of the week on this gentleman, because it's obviously an addiction to some sort of extent. But I want you to read the post. It is on the Bowl and Science Forum, which is my new favorite reading material every day.
I'm off that.
You missing out on some good shit. But I get worst of the week all to myself. He says, I need to get this off my chest, but not sure if I should say it here. I have a bowling ball addiction, and I really need to just stick to a few. I have been donating some so they don't go to waste, but feel I am overburdening the bowling center. I guess I just enjoyed trying them out, but I haven't been bowling good up until this year. Working on eliminating some bad habits that have been prone over the years just has been depressing me out a little bit, hoping I can cut back from here on out. Okay. And then there's some posts of people saying, yeah, I understand, I get it, of rooms, Mike, rooms filled with bowling balls. I mean, this guy put a picture up, if I could show it to the camera, of literally of a room full of like his bowling balls. Look at that, Mike. It's so crazy of a bowling ball addiction and an epidemic that we're in as a company. And that's just an example. There was so many people in that chat room who were like, yeah, me too. I have all these ball, like, yeah, hey, look, anything can become an addiction, really, in life, in everyday life. But a bowling ball addiction, Mike, is crazy to me. But look, I've been saying it for years about being in a bowling ball epidemic, and I just like kind of verified what I'm saying by reading these posts. So
if we did this full time and I was creating content full time for bowling, I'll tell you what I would do. I would do a mock episode of the show Intervention. Okay, but it would be an intervention for somebody addicted to buying bowling balls. Okay, where we would sit them down with all their bowling balls in a room, and we would go over some of their more questionable choices, like, come on, what do you need this new blue hammer for? What do you need this for? You didn't really need this.
dude, Rudy's got a ball addiction. Yo, it's because Rudy needed to drill a ton of bowling balls because the balls would burn out because he would all the revs that he had, like, dude, the balls would literally destroy themselves within a couple of literally 25 games.
Well, listen, when you roll around in a lane 1 Hummer, okay? When you roll around in a lane 1 Hummer, pause, don't think I forgot about the lane 1 Hummer, okay? When you roll around in a lane 1 Hummer, you better be drilling some shit, okay? You better have like mad boxes in the back of that John, and you better be drilling some things.
As a high competitive amateur and pro, and someone who's bowling for a living or bowls hundreds of games a week, I can understand drilling all those bowling balls because essentially you actually need them. But when you're an everyday guy or woman who bowls 3, 6, 9 games a week, maybe 2 to 3 leagues, and you're drilling 40, 50 bowling balls, like this guy in his room in this addiction, like that's not like healthy. That's not right. Take the money. Listen, here's my advice to you. Take the money you're spending on the bowling balls. Go find the best coach in your area. Shit, with all the money you're spending on bowling balls, you could fly out to a Mark Baker clinic, Mike. Honestly, you could fly, hotel, all of it, right? And you could get lessons and actually make yourself better. Dude, all the people see Rudy the chat, man. All JD came out. Tony, this is like the World Match Games all over again, man. This is all the people that would come out to the World Match Games.
Yeah, if you guys didn't catch the earlier part of the conversation, we started the episode talking a little New Year's Day marathon. So
All the
if you want to go
brackets
back
and
and
all the
check
good stuff.
that, we
Dude,
were
Tony knows
reminiscing a little
Rosamelia.
bit.
Dude,
Hell yeah,
Rosamelia loved the brackets.
hell yeah, Rosamelia loved New Year's Day. You kidding?
He loved that, man. He would go out there with all those guys, JD, Tony, Rudy. Dude would come out with their pockets.
He probably made a few thousand and went and got a nice veal parm afterwards, bro.
Took all my money, took all your money. They took all of our money, man.
No doubt.
I love it, man. I love these guys in the chat, man. We should bring them all on at once and just let it go, man, and see what kind of episode that would be. That would be wild. Dude, I love it.
My worst of the week this week. I think this might be the first time ever that this is occurring. And I know, like, worst of the week is supposed to be about a post on the internet, but my worst of the week actually comes from real life this week. So I had a conversation with a bowling friend.
I gotta cut you off because JD said he spent 7,000 New Year's every day. That's a wild number to go in brackets, my man. But I love you for it, and you had no fear, and I love you for it, man. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. It cut me off any time to talk about that $7,000 bracket story. That's fine. So I had a friend call me the other night who bowls in a house league at Booton Lanes. Okay, at Booton Lanes, and apparently, like the lanes were not getting done the way that they normally are done. Okay, that was like, my buddy who called me. He's not like, advanced knowledge bowler to break down exactly what was going on, but suffice to say that the lanes weren't getting done the way that they had been getting done. Okay. And Rob, he told me that after their league this week, the top level, quote unquote, top level bowlers in their league decided that next week, if the lanes are not properly dressed to their satisfaction, they are staging a walkout.
Oh yeah, huh?
Okay. So there might be a walkout at Booton Lanes next week if the if the wall ain't wally enough, okay, and they ain't easy enough, and people ain't shooting high scores. There's going to be a protest. Be aware, okay? There's going to be a walkout.
Please, and I'm begging you guys, please, if you're there and see this walkout and this happens, please get your video out. Please video this walkout, and please don't send it to anybody else but me and Mike at sweeptherack@gmail. And we will literally watch it on air, and we will commentate the walkouts.
I will.
The Patch Pirate walkout will be extraordinary, and we will have a lot of fun with it. So I am begging you all. But
I mean, can you imagine?
No, people are walking out because the shot isn't what they want. They're not scoring high enough. This is where we're at. A bowling ball epidemic and a high score walkout. This is the state of the bowling world, people. It ain't what it used to be. And I know there's a lot of old school guys in the chat. JD, Tony, fucking Rudy, dude.
If you don't make these lanes easier, I'm taking my staff shirt and my 20 bowling balls, and I'm walking out of here. You're right, Jimmy.
Dude,
You're
those
right.
guys in the chat are insulted by a walkout when their lanes aren't easy enough. These guys have bowled on everything across the whole New York area, New Jersey, the shit of this shit, the dungeons of Brooklyn, the dungeons of the Bronx, dude, oiling the back of the lanes, stripping the heads. I mean, the shit that these guys bowled on. Dude,
unbelievable.
All craziness. And for these guys now to walk out because the lanes aren't easy enough is an insult to all the great bowlers that ever.
Again, I will ask. I've asked this like so many times on this podcast, but like, why do people not appreciate the value of the struggle? Like there was a guy There was a guy who showed up to my Tuesday night, to the Tuesday night. I keep saying my Tuesday night thing. I don't even run it anymore. To the Tuesday night sport pot thing that we do. And Rob, he struggled mightily. I mean, it was like ridiculous how bad he struggled. But then by the third game, okay, after he had 2 games under his belt and he sort of like got to see his ball go down the lane somewhat, he actually did throw a couple shots that were like pretty good shots that strike. And I went over to him after he struck, and he had struggled mightily the whole night. And I saw him like throw a strike or two in the beginning of a game. And I walked down to him and I said, "Yo, those are the ones that'll keep you coming back." And he kind of like nodded at me like, "Yeah, you're right. Like those were good shots, and I threw those good and did what I needed to do." And I had a conversation with someone afterwards, and I said, that's like golf.
Exactly.
Where, like,
That's what I was gonna say.
you go out and you shoot 120,
But you
but
hit the one
you
drive.
hit these 2 or 3 really great shots where you strike it the right way and your swings in line, you do everything right, and you see the result of that, and you're like, "See, I can do it. I can do it. I just need to be more consistent at it," right?
So
And,
look,
and
there's
we
nothing.
we've lost
No,
that
we
in
lost
bowling.
that.
That's
There's
gone. It's gone
there's
in bowling.
nothing more addicting in anything, right? We talked about addiction and bowling ball addiction. There's nothing more addicting than bowling or doing anything in life that's challenging or hard, but you working on it and getting better and seeing your improvements, right? You go get lessons, you go learn your bowling ball equipment. You give me, Mike, am I wrong here? Like video games, sports, anything, you got something hard in life and you get through it and you work on it and you see yourself improving and your scores and your results are getting better. Weightlifting, health, all of it, right? Like you see improvements. And a lot of people, you listen to a lot of these like self-help, like people that are real successful, they talk about, and you talk about the struggle. It's not really about the struggle, but it's enjoying the journey and not worrying about the results, right? And you enjoy the struggle. And that's the same thing what you're talking about, right? Enjoy getting better, enjoy learning more you can, learn about your equipment, get lessons, read mental books, go see a golf psychologist, sports psychologist, figure out your weaknesses, get better. And when you see the results, you keep coming back.
And
That's the
also,
power of bowling.
let there be value.
Dude, Rudy had a black.
Let there be value, and let there be struggle to get to a proficient level in the game, right? Like don't have it where anybody can walk into the game and in 6 to 8 months be really proficient at it. I mean, I kind of feel like that's where we're at in bowling to a degree. Like you
Yeah, we
drill up a
talked
few
about it a lot.
balls, you get a little advice about how to throw it, and if you're an athlete, within 6 or 8 months, you're probably going to be throwing it pretty good and striking pretty consistently. And like it shouldn't be that way. There should have to be more of a struggle to get good and get proficient and grow in the game. And when I heard that, I just thought like, man, this is really a reflection of where we're at as a community, and it's quite sad.
It is. All right, Mike.
All right, let's wrap it up. All right, my final thought this week is a couple things. Greg Tack, Grinch Classic, Saturday, Lodi. If you can make it out, go bowl. Greg Tack, 80 plus entries he's got already for Saturday. Okay, and they're going to be impossible. All right, it's the Grinch Classic where he purposely makes them impossible.
I hate when he does that.
I mean, honestly, it'll be some goofy impossible.
I know.
I'm not even gonna lie.
I talk about challenging and making it hard and stuff, which I understand, and we just talked about it. But dude, when you start making them literally impossible, it turns into a challenge to just like, what the fuck is this?
I think I bowled last year on JD's pair, if I recall correctly, and they were mightily hard. But yeah, I can't. I won't be making it. We got some soccer and dance stuff going on Saturday. But if you're in the area and you can make it, go bowl. Also, want to say Dougie Vision, January 1st. Dougie Vision World Series of Dougie Vision, I think it's called. Go check that out if you're in the area. Definitely something you want to take a look at. And also wanted to give a shout out to the Tackett family. The night of the draft, actually, last night, they had welcomed their first child into the world, a baby boy. So congratulations to them, and hope everybody's doing good. And yeah, it's exciting stuff, man. What a year for EJ Tackett, bro. Player of the year, 400,000 in earnings, multiple titles, wins the Grand Slam, completes the Grand Slam, has his first kid. Like, what a year.
Yeah. I have a couple of final thoughts. But Nico saying about the Hammer posted about a new ball. I'm pretty confident it is a 78 urethane ball.
It's not. It's not. I confirmed while we were on the air. It's not. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't know if I'm privileged to release that.
But on that point,
but I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. 78U from Hammer is coming.
Oh, so there's another one coming after that. Yeah, it's coming.
78U is coming.
Urethane for Hammer is coming for sure, but that's my final thought. I did drill a not urethane, and I know we talked about that on the show, and I wanted to give my my honest and transparent feedback about the ball. Now, we all knew that I drilled thanks, Tony. Appreciate it. We all know that I drilled a couple new balls last month. One of them was a purple hammer, a new purple hammer, right? I drilled a new, and I practiced for a half hour on Saturday, and I literally did a comparison video of the two, and I didn't post it on social media. I just did it for myself. If anybody wants to see that, I could make a ball video. I don't know if anybody would really watch it. I'm not a patch pirate. But comparison of the ball is that the new is not like the purple hammer. They're similar. It's a good complement to the purple hammer. The new was about 2 to 3 boards stronger than the purple hammer. It was probably about 3 to 5 feet longer and a little bit more edgy off the spot. So if anybody's interested in hearing that or wants to message me about the comparison, I think it'll be a good compliment to my purple, but it's not exactly the purple. So I can understand why, Hammer wants to, make a urethane. So anyway, that's my final thought. Follow us on social media. I'm Brooklyn Rob 11 on Twitter. I chime in sometimes on my bad bowling takes of the day. Mike, your Twitter is what? At the 215?
At the 215. Hit us up. Email us. sweeptherack@gmail.com. Keep the emails coming. Not too many emails this week, but keep the emails coming. We love the mailbag. We love the emails. We want to dip into the mailbag. The chat was lit tonight. Shout to everybody in the chat tonight, man.
You got another legend in the chat, man. Les. What up, Les? What's going on, man? My guy, Les was a legend. Dude, but Rudy, Tony, Rosamillion, man, we got it.
JD.
JD.
Chat was lit.
There's a lot of brackets. We should run brackets for this show. I guarantee you they'd go in it. Like,
we should run brackets while we're on the air. It's great.
Best love comments go to the next, I don't know,
love it. Roll dice to see who wins.
Yeah, something that nature.
Anyway, but seriously, everybody, thanks for joining us. Yeah. Rob, I believe we're going to try and get a show in next week, right? I don't think I'm going to be able to do Thursday, but I think we could try and work something else out. And I believe next week we kind of want to do our yearly wrap show, where we come on and just kind of wrap up the top best topics from the year, things, highlights of the year. And then we'll call it a wrap for 2023 on Sweep the Rack after that. So join us next year. Join us next week. Yeah, we'll put out when we're going to be on. We'll definitely not be Thursday. Might be Wednesday, might be Friday, depending on what our schedule is. But me and Rob will get up and we'll let you guys know. And we appreciate everybody joining the show. Take it easy, guys.
There you guys.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.